welcome once again to the Movie Stuff Show. My name's Dan, and with me this week, Marty and Jamill. I want you guys to start talking right now, just to make sure if there's sound, someone can let us know
Aaron, let us know right now.
Listen, it took like a few minutes last week for us to realize that, all right, Talia's in the chat. Talia, can you hear Marty? Can you hear Marty?
Hey, Talia.
Okay, you want me to talk?
Yeah,
Hey,
you too.
Talia.
Can you hear Marty and Jamill? Please let us know. If you cannot hear them, we'll have to like reset everything like last week.
This is how professional shows start.
Listen, hey. Yeah, she can hear all of us. All right, so we're on a roll. We are on a roll. This is kind of our 1-2 punch of kind of shows, right? I mean, last week did Black Klansman. This week we went documentary style, Hulu documentary, Crime and Punishment. It's kind of our 1-2 punch, right?
Not really planned, but it just worked out perfectly. Because this Crime and Punishment came out this just last Thursday, I believe.
It's pretty amazing. We definitely wanted Jamill on the show, and you'd say, "Oh, well, great, you got the black guy on the show." Well, the different perspective from Jamill that we found out last week was, Jamill, you were raised by a cop.
Yep, I'm
We
a
never
cop
knew that.
kid.
Never knew
Yeah.
that. So
I'm a.
I think that's a great perspective to have that.
Is it though? Because it don't really mean much. But yeah, I'm a cop kid. I was born and raised by my grandparents. He was a police officer for 20 something years, and the only reason he retired is because he was sick with cancer. So like all my life, I lived in a neighborhood full of drugs, but we was like the only family. Put it this way, we could leave our door unlocked in the hood because who's gonna break into a cop's house?
It's a fair point. It's a fair
Yeah.
point. Yeah, I'm more from a firefighter side of things. Like my uncle, was a firefighter, so I grew up around firefighters all the time, like hanging out in the firehouses in Jersey City, and that was kind of more the crowd. And it's weird because I mean they get along like firefighters and cops, but there definitely is this kind of unspoken friction between the two. It's really weird because again, all these firefighters growing up, there was this animosity towards cops. It was really interesting at a young age realizing that I go to these like firefighter events and you never see a cop there. It was really really bizarre. I'd like to say in Jersey City, the groups of firefighters that I was surrounded by was a very diverse crowd of people. It seems like they don't care about sending anyone into a fire to die. Skin color does not matter when you're fighting fires, apparently. They'll send you in there,
Just male or female. They still had a problem with that for a while.
Yeah, so the female thing for a while. Yeah. So.
Well, I'm New York Irish, as we know, and so I definitely have some cop connections. Some good, some bad. But
not bad for you. You're a white dude.
No, I'm fine with it.
You're fine. Like, you're not getting quoted over there, Marty.
Some of them were good cops. Some of them weren't. We'll just leave it at that.
Okay, so that's the gist of this Well, this documentary is pretty interesting because it has a couple different stories that it's focusing in on. One of them I'd feel went for kind of the easy target, the more known kind of target, and that was the Eric Garner case. Like everyone kind of, I think that was kind of an easy thing for them to latch onto in this, but I think it worked well in the context of what one of the main purposes of this documentary was about. At the essence of it, it's talking about quotas and police quotas, and how quotas really impact the black community in New York City, and how this whole what is it, window breaking? What's the term?
Yeah, I think it was window breaking. Yeah,
or something like that. This mentality of policing is, well, you get the crime level when it's so low, so it can't be built up into something worse than that. Is actually this oppression, that police officers can utilize to maintain a certain level of fines or a certain level of income for the city. It was kind of fascinating to see that angle of it, because you think about this, right? I mean, I've known about this all my life. Was towards the end of the month, don't speed your car. You know, police got to make their quotas. They're gonna pull you over. There's more like DUI testing. There's more, you know, just stay off the roads towards the end of the month, and you know, have all the people talking. It's like, you know, oh, there's a DUI check on this road, and you'd hear this stuff like as a kid, and you hear these things about quotas. So to see that it's like, oh no, quotas are illegal. You can't do these quotas anymore, and it's like, we're doing the quotas. If it kind of felt like the A Few Good Men, like the you know. It's like, we don't do those things. Those are not, you know, code reds. They don't exist.
We just call it something else now.
We just do it. So.
What I found interesting is that you talk about the quotas, how much it felt like everybody else's job, kind of. You know, a lot of the film is hidden recordings, which was interesting about these cops who go into their CEO's offices or their sergeant's offices, and they go over at the end of the month, hey, you don't have the rest. You're the lowest, ticket guy in the office. You're the lowest. So it's like any job where you go in, hey, your sales aren't matching last quarter, or you're not making the money that everyone else on your team is making. So it's weird. We think of, and that's kind of the focus of the film, is these 12 New York cops say, all right, that's not how we should function in life. We shouldn't function as a business organization where we have to make money. You know, essentially all it was making money, because you make these fines and you give out these citations and people have to pay bail, or they have to pay the fines, and that kind of feeds the machine. And it's just this cycle that they can't get out of. And so it's not so much a fuck the cops, documentary that people might think it is. It's more of a
portion of it,
decent portion of it, but it's not. It's so much that these cops want to be better cops, really. Yeah. And they don't want to have to give out petty fines to the kids on the corner so that they can, just make their next. They had different cops where they weren't getting different good posts because they weren't doing this. They weren't moving on in their careers because they weren't, getting the stats everyone else was. And so from that angle, it was really interesting to see.
Yeah, it's funny too. So we were talking about this kind of before the show. We were not making fun of it, but this whole concept of white guilt and this white fear type thing. And I found myself succumb to part of it while watching this documentary. I was saying, I was looking at these 12 cops and I'm like, where's the white dude? Please let there be a white dude.
Nope,
come
not
on,
one.
Please let there be a white dude in that mix. And
not one.
Not a single fucking one. And it angered me. It truly did anger me that not one single fucking white cop was part of that group. I was really upset by it. And again, say what you will about the white guilt, but I was really irked by that. I was hoping for one.
I guess it makes sense, right? Because there were all minorities, black and Hispanic, it seems like, and it seems like it put them in an existential crisis because they're policing their own communities, and you're telling these people that to hurt their own communities, and it goes to show you just what a little diversity do. Because as soon as you, I remember where I read this at, but I remember at one point I read somewhere that they couldn't hire enough black cops in New York because they gave everybody a record, whether they did anything or not. Almost every black person had a record in New York that wanted to be a cop, or could have, or might have been eligible for a cop. So like, it just goes to show you when you hire, because a couple of those people was new hires. If you just hire some new people, younger, that's not white, the empathy level goes way up when you're white. And again, this is not all white people, but there's like this disconnect there when it's not your community, you know what I'm saying? So like, fuck it, you almost treat them like animals in a way. Fuck it, I need my quota. What they say, I mess with these dudes playing dominoes because I'm the drug dealer sleep. It's just,
yeah. And it's not hard. You can give someone a ticket any day for anything, really. I mean, you walk around New York. I mean, I walk around New York every day. I mean, I must jaywalk every fucking day. If someone wanted to give me a ticket for that, they can. And that was the point of these cops. Like, we're giving these petty fines out and petty nonsense, and that's why people don't like cops. Because they're bothering you for bullshit, and then everyone wants to respect cops. Everyone knows they do hard, work, and they go to deal with things that no one else wants to or has to. But they get a bad rap when, they show some kids in this thing where it's like, yeah, I've been arrested 7 times, and I get released every time. But every time it's down to the precinct. Every time it's locked up in the back of the car, and that affects you. That affects your ability to get a job going forward when someone says, hey, what? Or the one time you do commit a crime, and it's like, well, you committed this one, I've also seen you got arrested 7 more times, so that your penalty gets higher for shit like that.
It's crazy too. One of the side stories, or one of the stories about this, was about a kid, a 16-year-old I think he was, who got put in Rikers for the shooting, and he was going to do this trial, and he claimed his innocence and said, there's no way I did this. But to think the cost associated with that, and not just the cost that the family had to put up with, the taxpayer cost of putting this kid, in prison and going through the motions of the trial and investigating all that stuff. The burden on the taxpayer is ridiculous. And what did they try to do? And I love that private investigator, what he said to the kid. He's like, they're going to come with you now with a very good deal to get you out of here. They're going to come at you, and they're going to tell you to plead guilty, and you're going to be out of here as soon as possible. He's like, what are you going to do? I'm not going to take it. And it was so scary. Here they are. They're trying to justify this arrest and just trying to get their numbers up and try to prove, see, we got the bad guy.
And as soon as you pulled their bitch card, they dismissed it because they had nothing. Mm-hmm. They knew they had nothing. Yep. And like they tried for damn near a year because he was in jail 8 months. They tried damn near for a year to have him take a plea deal. But as soon as they pulled that card, as soon as he wasn't scared and they went to trial, before the trial even started, yep, well, we're done.
But how many kids are going to have that resolve? How many families are going to have
not many
income to be able to hire this private investigator or do these things? For the most part, it's just people going to take the pleas shit. It's just easier for me to say I did it and I'm out in a month or two. And that it destroys people for their entire fucking lives.
Then what does it does when you're not a criminal, right? And you're arrested 7 times. You know what? A lot of times you tend to. Yeah, you might as well do it. I mean, everybody say that's childish, but that's not childish. If you're already poor, if your prospects are not that great to begin with, and from 14 to 18, and you haven't done anything wrong, you've been arrested 8-9 times for shit you didn't do.
Yeah, well, it's the same thing as parenting, right? If you're constantly blaming your kid for doing something wrong and they're not doing it, right? They're getting in trouble. They're being grounded. They're being punished for all these things, and they're not doing it. It's oh, you're doing drugs. I know you're smoking weed and all this stuff. You're punished. You can't leave the house. Well, you know what the kid's gonna do? He's gonna start smoking weed. He's like, listen, I'm getting in trouble for it anyway. I might as well fucking do it.
Exactly. It's just human nature.
The kid's name is Pedro Hernandez, and I couldn't find a whole list of the police officers in this. I want to try and find that. The private investigator is Manny Gomez, and he's the one who fought for him for, like I said, 8 months to a year.
That guy was so funny.
But it's you send a 17-year-old kid to Rikers for a year. I mean, this kid seemed to come out okay, but that's going to ruin 9 out of 10 kids. I know people got Rikers. It's not a fun place.
I mean, it ruined Khalif Border. It ruined him. He spent 3 years in jail as a teenager, and even though he got out scot-free, he had a job helping other people that went through the same thing. He ended up killing himself because it was just too much. Those 3 years in jail was just way too much for him, and he ultimately committed suicide.
Yeah, you can't take that time back, right? So that's one of the things that's lost on all this too. It's like, well, shit, I was in jail for a year. What kind of recourse do I have? I can't sue the city. I can't make money on this. I can't get a year of my life back.
And God knows what happened to you while you was in there. God knows, especially Rikers, from what I hear. Ain't no telling. Those type of demons you gotta carry with you for the rest of your life.
So this definitely isn't an uplifting movie in the fact that this shit is happening. It's uplifting in the fact that the stories that are being told, in essence, didn't turn out terribly. Yeah. So you like the ending. The fact is okay, this kid did end up in jail, and they're okay, the commissioner did step down. So it's got these hints of these happy notes in it, but
it's one of those things too where it's
you do not walk away feeling good from this.
It's Roger Ailes stepped down, but he got $80 million to go down. And Bratton had to step down, but he
died.
Yeah, he died, but that was good. But Bratton never had to admit anything. He never had to say it was. Even the mayor stood up from the entire time, which is also an odd part about this too. This took the place over the 14 to 17, I believe, and it kind of ends present day. Those are all under Democratic or Democratic times. It wasn't under a mayor who was banging the drum for more arrest or prison time or anything like that. So it show you that it's much worse probably in other areas. So I mean, it's hard to know who to blame for this, but it's just nobody changes the system.
I think,
really. So everyone
it was the one cop too, the one that became the sergeant. I think he said it. He's like, just De Blasio walks into this situation and he doesn't realize how much revenue is generated by this. And you're looking at the budget and you're like, oh shit, we got to arrest more people so we can pay our fucking budget. And
nobody wants to be soft on crime. No one wants to. Someone can run against you very easily with saying, hey, crime went up 10% since he's been mayor, and boom, you're out of office. So it's like, it's just, and that's why it kind of leaves me somewhat hopeful, but not entirely hopeful in that, it's only 12 cops stood strong. Some of them didn't, one of them still got his, moved up to sergeant, but a lot of them seemed to break under it. One of the guys had a panic attack during roll call one day and no one gave a shit. Another woman had to, one of the women that was in the 12 got pregnant. And they tried to fight her on all types of things, trying to get her benefits and shit. And it scares people. If I see this, I'm not sure I want to come forward. And it's you want to say more people come forward.
I applaud those guys so much. Like how fucking brave they had to be.
You see the shit they have to deal with. The one guy, they put on a post on some bullshit street, doing nothing, and some jack off cop comes by and says, hey, you're getting citations because it's 38 degrees, not 35, and you can't wear that hat unless it's 35 degrees. It's like, it's tough. And again, it's just another guy doing his job, but you know what? And it's just, that's what it is. Too many people just do their jobs, and too many people just care about their own self-interest, and that's just how human nature. People want their bonuses, people want their overtime, people want their pensions, so they just put their head down and keep going. And it's, you'd like to think this will inspire some people, but it's been 3 years and it's had some change here in the city. People, but this, still more cops probably think these guys are rat assholes and not.
Yeah, that sucks.
Which is a shit.
I find it real funny. Cops are always talking about come forward, be snitches, but they don't follow their own advice because as soon as someone tells, they're doing the same shit. They doing the exact same shit. It's just like, well, of course nobody likes cops. You're fucking hypocrites.
That's true. It's it's absolutely true. Like,
and you guys said this ends hopefully. To me,
no.
It doesn't.
It
end
tries to. Like I said, it tries.
I think the point is, it could, like, you don't walk away feeling hopeful, but in essence, it could have been a lot worse of an ending.
I guess because it does end with the black dude, even though he got promoted, getting defamed in the end. Like, to me, this is like a very 70s ending where it's just shit and it's all depressed. Which, by the way, they did name drop Serpico. I did like that because I was watching. I was like, are they going to talk about that? And they did name drop it. So yeah, like I said, I found this documentary completely and utterly depressing the whole way through.
Most documentaries are, to be quite honest.
You don't really have the fun, happy documentaries.
And then, was there anything missing you thought? Anything you would have liked to have seen them touch on?
Again, like, I kind of felt the Eric Gardner thing was a cheap kind of throw in. It was a big story.
Spent a lot of time.
And I don't think they spent a ton of time on it. So
they don't. Well, I don't think it's cheap. I think it's prevalent because the dude was talking about you have to mess with the guy sitting in front of the bodega.
Yeah.
What was Eric Garner doing? He was sitting in front of bodega. I think it's very pertinent to the conversation. I think that's why they use it, not just because it's cheap, but because it's the most high profile of that type of crime.
I understood why they do it, but to me, it just kind of felt like, okay, they're really going for the emotions here because it's such a high profile case and everyone knows it, and it's gonna invoke these emotions, and everyone's been through this before. Like, honestly speaking, like, I live in New Jersey, and like, I didn't know about these 12 cops until I saw this documentary.
It wasn't.
It wasn't huge.
I don't remember hearing about this.
And, like, again, like, I got local news, and to me, like, they were on NBC. I didn't realize that shit. The Eric Gardner thing, like, everyone knew that, right? The commissioner stepping down, yeah, I recall that, but I didn't remember the exact details of it because, again, Listen, I'm convinced most politicians and most people in high authorities are pretty corrupt anyway. So that's just my general nature of feelings, is that anyone who ascends to a certain level of height within a government has done some shady shit. There's very few honest people.
Not even government. I mean, fucking priesthood.
Yes, Robert Maley, it's definitely worth a watch. It's an hour and 52 minutes.
Yeah, it's really
on
great.
Hulu.
It's
a little long.
It's a little long, but it's well done. Listen,
it covers 3 years. Yeah, so
I found myself into each storyline that they were kind of addressing.
I would have liked to seen. You're never going to get the cop side of this because they're not going to talk to you knowing what your subject is.
The other cops, you mean?
Yeah, I mean, another side. But maybe like a retired cop, or even someone from the prosecutor's office who's retired who dealt with these kind of things, to explain the process a little more, because they deal. The Manny Gomez investigator kind of talks about how these cases always get dismissed and there's nothing. But I would like to see the other side of that, why they get dismissed. They're probably not all because they're completely innocent. I mean, I'm sure there are some things you just can't go to trial on. It would be nice to see some kind of pushback.
I tell you,
No.
I did the juror, right? I did the grand juror, and pretty much every case they put in front of us went to trial, right? I mean, because the burden of proof for a grand jury is all you hear is testimony of one person, and maybe see a little bit of evidence. You don't hear the other side of things. It's usually just a cop that says, here's what's went down. Here's the evidence that we ran. And that's what you have to base this off of, right? And it's very few chances that you get to even like I remember one case where we kind of had a discussion about it. We're like, we need to bring the cop back in here because something just didn't make sense to us. There's only once. And we're only hearing one side of the story. So for it to go to trial is super fucking easy to happen. Now, the burden of proof once it gets to trial becomes much, much harder. So again, they what they try to do is they try to push for these indictments. They try to push for these pleas. If someone does 3 months in jail, it still goes down as an arrest. It still looks good on their record. That's what they're trying to push for here. Innocence or not, they don't fucking care. They know a grand jury is going to push that trial through, and that's what's going to happen.
And I just want to push back on what Marty said, talking about showing the other side. They don't need to show the other side, because what that does, it just muddies the water. And look, that bullshit about both sides having equal voice is what the fuck we got, is why we in this shit now into the country. Because you know why? Because the Nazis need a voice just as much as the people fighting for rights. So no, fuck they side, because we know it's corrupt. We know, I know people from New York. We know it's corrupt. You don't need to show the other side. Of course there's bad people. Of course they go to jail. But for someone to get arrested 8 times and no, fuck that. No, you don't need to show the other side. Listen, we know there's bad people.
Or even like a retired prosecutor that could say, they're right. This is affecting us too. We can't.
Well, no, they did have the one cop, again, just how depressing it is. He was like a retired cop, and he was talking to the other 12. He was like, they're gonna come for your head, and they trying to say all the reasons why they're not gonna come for your head. Like, oh no, they're still coming for you. Trust me, you're probably never gonna move up again.
Yeah.
So like they did have that one guy, and he was black, and he was retired, and he was just like, this is what's going to happen to you. And he was right. He was right by everything he said. They came for them. Bad performance reviews, all of that shit all of a sudden. The one black dude with dreads, they made it seem like he was retarded.
Yeah. And essentially told him it's because he had dreads at one point that he wasn't becoming a sergeant. Even though he had, I think they scored 8 out of 3,000 tests or some shit.
No, I think there's the 2 guys. There's 2 guys with dreads. The one where they basically said it's like all his whole performance report was like 17 or 20 points long, and it was all grammatically incorrect. Yeah. And like there's that dude, and then the guy that was like basically made this huge collar, was scored insanely high. And it came out in the press that that's what it was that, it's like, hey, there's no reason that this guy shouldn't be promoted, and they just felt pressured to promote the dude. If not, they would have kind of held him down and tried to force him out.
That's the same guy. That's the exact same
guy.
Same
guy?
Yeah.
I like the one older black cop on the street who was talking about just being the neighborhood cop, and now he can talk to everybody, and everyone knows his name, and he can shake hands, and everyone's happy with him. And now they talk about him and how he deals with it, and then they shoot right to Eric Gardner, where it's the exact opposite. where it's 5 fucking white guys just coming up on a guy screaming and cursing at him. And it's almost there. They talked about that too, as far as how they come up on a guy and get, tussle and move him around so they can get that arrest for resistance and then get that bigger charge. And it's just, and then you see it come to death and just fucking infuriates you.
And that's the thing that irks me too, is, I have one cop who's a white dude. He's worked in Harlem his entire career. So he's been there, I think, it's got to be 12 years now. I think he's been working, and they've offered him transfers out of Harlem, and he works there. And again, like, he's very like blue line, pro cop, blah blah blah. But I know him kind of personally, and I've talked to him about these things, and that's one of the things that he's like, listen, I do so well in Harlem because the fact is, even though I'm a white guy, my whole thing was, I'm going to treat these people like humans. I'm going to, know them. I'm going to learn, like, who's on the streets and who's good and who's not. And that was his approach to it. But the problem is, then when one of his cops do something wrong, one of his buddies do something wrong, he's quick to defend them. And it felt like such a hypocritical statement. It's like, here's this guy that gets it, right? He's working this really tough beat for him. And he's trying to do what he can as a civil servant to, protect, serve, all that. But when he sees something wrong within his other cop brethren, it's immediate, like, blue through and through. And it seemed like such this crazy opposition, right? It's like, how can you be so cognizant of what's going on over here, but not realize that what you're doing over here is going to impact what you're doing so well over here?
Well, that's the point of the movie, essentially, is that not everyone has the heart or the, morality to say, not morality, but it's just the fortitude to stand up and say something, because, like, they started the movie at 36,000 fucking cops in New York. It's an army, essentially. It's crazy. And you see what happens when you step up. They cut your overtime. They cut your
36,000. There was 12.
Yeah,
12 that stood up.
Cops need, you need that overtime. You need that bump up. You need that fucking pension, and not everyone's gonna go against their self-interest. It's a shame, but it's not just police. It's everywhere, really.
And you know what? No one's saying it's not hard to be a cop. God knows it's hard to be a cop, but also, this is my problem. Like, it's a dangerous job, but cops treat it like it's not. Then when it gets dangerous, they overreact. Like, and it's really weird. Like, what you signed up for. What I find crazy about this documentary is that at the end of this, all that shit got dismissed, despite them having evidence. Like, I don't understand how that happens. Like, I don't get it.
Well, it wasn't even dismissed on any evidence. It was 8 of the 8 of the 10 10 counts or 8 counts, whatever it was, were dismissed right offhand because they said you can't sue as a cop, you can't sue the police because
the way that the law was written. Yeah.
Because they have internal ways to go about it, but when those internal ways don't work for you, you're supposed to be able to go to the law.
It's this vicious circle, though, right? I mean, it's basically saying, it's like, okay, report to this person if something goes wrong, and if they don't do anything, you got to report to this person, and if they don't do anything right, you got to report to this person, and then you realize 3 people in, you're back to the beginning. Yeah. It's this cycle of going through the same routes, right? And there's no policing the police, really, because if internal affairs, you go to internal affairs and they don't do anything with it, right? And then you go to the people that are policing internal affairs, that you find 3 cycles in, you're back to the beginning of the same people that you're trying to complain against. It's like working in a company and going to the HR department to complain about someone in the HR department. Well, what's your recourse at that point? Right? If the HR person is sexually harassing you and you got to go to HR to complain about this, well, what's your recourse? There is none. It's this circle, and that's the system that's been created. Is there has to be a legal recourse here? There has to be. And the fact that there isn't, that these just got dismissed right off the bat because no, you got ways to report it. It was like, well, what happens when these things don't work? What is your recourse there? Nothing.
Despair. That's your recourse. Despair.
Drinking.
Yeah. Who watches The Watchmen?
Yeah. Precisely. Yeah.
It's 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 so weird to see. Like, do anybody know, are those cops still working? Are all those cops still working? Do anybody know?
Yeah, I mean, the movie ends, or the documentary rather, ends fairly at current time, I believe, and they're all, like I said, not everything was dismissed. I don't believe in the case. The case is still ongoing.
I'd venture to say by
Mhm.
now, though, because this documentary
Yeah.
was, probably, post-produced and all that stuff. I'd say by now, I bet you half of them are gone.
Yeah, but probably
Either
on
been
their own.
forced out,
Yeah.
or just felt the pressure and went in, because even the main private investigator, he was a cop, right? And he stopped being a cop because of that.
I wanted to know a little more about that guy because I'm sure there's a shadier side to him that wasn't shown in
Well,
this thing.
Why? But Marty,
I don't know.
Marty, what the hell,
well,
Marty?
we never
What
hear.
the fuck, dude? What the fuck, man?
We never hear how much he charges for these services. We never hear about anything. He's driving a very nice car around. He's got some very nice suits on.
Who cares? He
And
got that young boy out. I don't give a fuck what he did in his past, Marty. Like,
he got
what
no.
but
I'm not saying he's a bad guy.
It's that
Not
same
saying he's a bad
bullshit,
guy.
Marty. It's that same bullshit, right? Can't nobody do nothing right without some white dude being. I don't know about him. They did that shit with Martin Luther King. They did that shit with Malcolm X. Why is it that someone try to do good? The first thing a white person says, I don't know about that guy. Something shady about him. Like, no, look, whatever he does, fine, but he's doing good. That's what matters. Again, that shit just muddies the fucking waters. It's that same bullshit with Trump. Well, America did this, so what? Why should we care what Russia does? No, it doesn't matter. He was doing good. That's all that fucking matters. At this present point in time, he was doing good. He got that boy who's never committed a crime out of jail after 8 months in Rikers. Fuck anything else.
Fair point.
I was trying to look for an angle. It doesn't have to be an angle. Even if it is, why does it matter? At this present time, the documentary ain't about that. It's about how fucked up the police system is. It's not about what this dude does, may or may not do. Why do you need to know that?
I think the point I was going to make is like, listen, if you're a private investigator, more than likely you're going to have to do some shady shit, and there's nothing wrong with that per se, right? I mean, the fact is the job. Part of it is you have to break some or bend some laws to be able to do your job properly. So, I mean, no matter what, if you're a private investigator, you're bending the laws. Like, honestly, you're going to do some quote unquote illegal wiretapping, of course, right? You're going to invade people's property. You're going to dig through their garbage. You're going to do these things that are on the fringes of breaking the law, if not breaking the law, really.
I mean,
they didn't mention it. They didn't mention it during the documentary. But do you think all the recordings in this thing were admissible? Because there's a lot of secret tapings and all those types of things.
New York is one of those that I think that it's okay to.
One way.
I don't think you need the permission. Like, I know, I can't remember if California might be another one where, because that was the whole like Donald Sterling thing. I think California is you need. Like, if they would have
No, Donald Sterling was you needed only one. That's why they could use it.
Right. So
these weren't phone calls either. These were just meetings.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So,
I'm sure some of the stuff would have been admissible though.
I mean, like I said, it's crazy that they had all those recordings and somehow that wasn't a bigger deal, because that seems to me like normally that would be a big deal when you literally have the cops saying quota. Like they actually say the word quota. Like all these sergeants and chiefs are saying quota. You haven't.
They actually say quota, or they meant. I think they go out of their way.
No,
really?
Yeah, some of them did, or numbers, but
they just say numbers, or they say stats, or so I'm sure they can talk. That's the thing about some of these. A lot of these cases, cops can say, "Well, we just put them at that post because we needed someone there," or "We just put them." We did stop giving overtime because we didn't have any.
Crime happens here, so we're.
Well, no, it was the one cop who could only police like that 10-foot radius. So if something happened, something happened at the end of the block, he can't do anything about it. He has to stay in that 10-foot radius and just look crazy.
Sure, legally they can explain that in a way that everyone knows is bullshit, but you can't, you can't disprove a negative, you can't prove a negative kind of shit. So, I mean, I'm sure they can get away with a lot of that stuff, just saying, hey, we needed that area, and he's the guy we needed to do that. It's like, all right, it sounds like bullshit, and there's all this, but if they're following their own procedures, you really can't get them on any of it.
Yeah, and this one, I want to go back to A Few Good Men, because that's what this really did feel like, right? Was you go into it and the initial thought process is, okay, Kiefer Sutherland's character is the one that ordered this code red, right? We're going to go after him. We're going to prove that this is the dude that ordered it. And then throughout this whole process, you realize, like, keep going up the ladder, right? And until you get to Jack. And this what you're looking at here is these chiefs, these lieutenants, everyone, they're getting pressure, right? Each one is putting pressure on the other one to do these things, and none of them are right? None of them are in the right here. It just keeps going up and up and up, because this is coming from the very, very top. This was coming, it was coming from the commissioner's office, essentially, right? And to argue that if it's coming from the commissioner's office, and to say, well, the mayor probably didn't know this exactly, I say bullshit, right?
He might not have known, but he knew the numbers, and he knows I need to get those numbers. So whatever you know.
Exactly, So
that motherfucker knew. Look, ain't no in the world he didn't know. You know what I'm saying? You don't get that high up without knowing shit. You know how that operates. Isn't all this like technically Giuliani fault because he cleaned up New York like 30 years ago?
Yeah, he cleaned it up in mid '90s. I grew up in New York. I grew up in New York in the '80s when it was Koch and Dickens, and it was a shithole.
So I made this comment last week when I was talking about Bill Clinton and Bill Clinton's success based off of the fact that the internet came out in the '90s, right? And the economy boomed when Clinton was in office, and any president who would have been in the '90s with the internet would have fucking boomed. I look at it this way with Giuliani as well. Crime decreased when Giuliani was in office. That is a fact. Disney also came to New York and cleaned the shit out of Times Square. And that also happened while Giuliani was there. Think about that, though. I mean,
times are exactly the same, actually. Clinton and Giuliani's reign is actually the same 8 years, essentially. And the economy helping New York,
economy helped. But you think when I used to go to New York when I was younger. Like my stepfather was from the Bronx, so I knew New York, and 42nd Street. It was all porno shops. It was all strip clubs. It was the seedy drugs and insanity. Now you go there and it's like, oh, there's a bubblegum shrimp. There's fucking Toys R Us with a giant fucking Ferris wheel.
Not no more.
Well, yeah, true. True. That's gone. But
I never got to go there.
I did.
Go ahead,
sir. A couple of times. It's cool. But you know what I'm saying? It's like that's what Times Square is right now. And Giuliani benefited from that. The crime instantly dropped because got pushed out. Got pushed out by Disney. Disneyfication of New York City there. It was whoever was in office at that time was going to benefit from that alone, right? But talking about the bad habits of the quotas and stuff like that, part of it was a direct result and a direct assault of what happened in the 70s and 80s in New York City, and how bad crime got and how bad drugs got and how bad things were. But I think when you're looking at metrics, right, when you're looking at success criteria for whether something's doing good, it's not arrests. It's not these small time arrests. It's not how many citations or how many people that you're putting to trial. To me, like, you're talking about the safety or how good a police community is violent crimes down.
Yeah.
Like, ultimately, at the end of the day, if your violent crimes are down year over year, if there's less gun violence, and listen, I want to put police gun violence in there as well, right? Because it's still gun violence. If gun violence is down, if rapes and murders and violent assaults are down, why the fuck do I care if someone's being fucking smoking weed or jaywalking or playing
dominoes,
playing dominoes and shit like that? Why the fuck do I care about arrest numbers? I want to make sure that if I'm walking down the street or my family's walking down the street, they're not going to be fucking shot. They're not going to be killed. They're not going to be raped. Like, those are the things that should matter more than the fact it's like, oh great, someone playing dominoes yelled a curse word at my family while we're walking. Oh no.
Well, that's the thing too. The major crimes are down, but you still got to feed the machine, and we still got to keep all these cops on overtime. We still got to keep all these, all this stuff running. So hey, we gotta give tickets for this. We still gotta get those arrest numbers in somehow. So hey, that guy's technically committing a crime over there. Go arrest him.
And it doesn't help with the gentrification of a lot of these like poor neighborhoods now. Where, like these white people move in, and all of a sudden they moved in for the culture, but as soon as they move in, they don't like the culture, so they call the police every 5 minutes. Like it was that one story about the chick calling the complaining about the ice cream man playing his music too loud as he goes down the street.
Ladies and gentlemen, Brooklyn, everyone, Brooklyn. In a nutshell. I remember we never went to Brooklyn when I was a young kid. You didn't go to Brooklyn. Bensonhurst was not a fun place to go to.
Well,
now you go there for fancy sandwiches and fucking
ice cream.
I like to call it the what is it? What her name? The show from Girls, the Laura Dunham vacation of New York.
Dunham,
Lena Dunham vacation of New York. That's what's happening. There's all these 20-something white women moving in, just wrecking the area.
There is not much left in New York that's the same from when I grew up. I mean, my parents grew up in Hell's Kitchen, which was predominantly Irish fucking gangs and shit like that. Now it's almost all gay people. Chelsea.
Hey, listen.
It's fine. It's much better. I've
been going to Queens since I was a kid, and it's still 95% auto parts places, Marty. That has not changed one bit.
That's just where the Mets, for some reason, find the need to put their stadium.
Just on the news, just like it's weird because I'm 34 now, and like I used to think, oh, they moving in and making things nicer. But honestly, if making things nicer is moving the black people out and all that shit, I'd rather just stay with the drug dealers and prostitutes I know than like not to have didn't have us move out or have them moved out, because they just gonna move somewhere else. Why push these people out their homes? I'd rather for the shit to stay the same and kind of scummy than to have all these white people move in or rich people move in and just completely change the area, because they're not changing it for us. So yeah, it's nicer, but it's not for us. It's for another type of people.
There's actually an HBO documentary I gotta figure the name for. It's about a charter school that went up in my old neighborhood, literally 2 blocks away from the Catholic school I went to when I grew up, and it's across the street from a project where all my friends lived in, and it's this school that's immaculate. Everything's brand new. No one that lives within
kids in from other towns. So.
Yeah, that's exactly what they do. All the kids from Stuyvesant and all the kids from all the down east side kids go there, and they have like a lottery system where 1 or 2 kids a year from the neighborhood can go there. And
a lottery. Yeah. Fucking get a chance to.
It costs 10 times more than our college costs, essentially, Dad, to go to this fucking school.
Well, listen, it was a bag of magic beans to go to our college. Marty, to be fair,
I'm pretty sure you pay more in daycare than you did for our college.
Listen, Listen, I got my college degree. It says a degree. I've yet to question the validity of this degree. I feel like I went to Hollywood Upstairs Medical College at this point. I'm glad that no one actually looked at the condition of the school that I went to. All kidding aside, New Jersey City University is a great school. I learned a lot. I'm using my history degree every day.
As my English degree.
Oh, man.
All right. Anything else we want to say in this before we move on to the very important report from Jamill and Mighty Morphin Power Ranger Con?
Yes.
No, I do have something to say. My grandfather's been dead since 2002. And like I've always had like a really standoffish relationship with the cops ever since I was 14. And one reason is that they mostly white and they act a certain way, even the black ones, right? It means something to me to see like these 12 cops and they're just normal people. Like, you know what I'm saying? They're just normal fucking people. Like, like a lot of times with cops, they usually former military and all this shit, and they have a way of standing and talking and shit because they former military. And I don't know if these people are, but they just seem like regular people. Like, yes, they're cops, but they're just regular people and they didn't seem as standoffish. Even the big buff dude, who, what I'm saying, he just seemed like a normal dude.
You usually get that in New York. It's technically it's mostly the local cops in like smaller towns that live for military
But
people.
just where I'm from, I don't see that, man. Like the cops are these things that's over here, and they have a certain way of thinking, and it means a lot to me. And I think again, it go back to this thing when you see your own people, your empathy level goes up, and like it just means something to me to see just these many brown people. There are cops, but they're just normal people. You know what I'm saying? They're not. I don't know. It's hard to explain, but like again, I'm from the South, so a lot of times it's a white boy with a buzz cut pulling you over, and they don't like niggas, but like it's but it just means a lot to me to see that, like, oh, cops aren't so bad, or all cops aren't so bad, because sometimes you forget that in today's climate and the type of people they hire. Yeah. You want more cops like that that's from the community, that maybe not served in the military. I mean, it's nothing wrong with serving in the military, but you want somebody from that community. You want normal people as cops. That's what you want.
Yeah, and you hope that the community embraces them and doesn't turn their back on them.
Well, that was the other thing too. They had a hard time garnering support because New York police, the people of New York and police relations was so bad that nobody wanted to come out there and support these 12 people. And it's nothing they did wrong.
Yeah, that was a sad thing. You'd see some of the rallies they showed in the documentary, and you went widescreen on it. There wasn't like huge amounts of people there. That was kind of a shame of it.
Lots of white women with short haircuts.
Yeah, there wasn't a huge,
You said it. I didn't.
I know. I was reading your mind, Jamill.
I mean, the protests did pick up after the Gardner case and stuff, but before that, when they were just trying to get news and get coverage on it, it was just, the 6 guys, and it's mostly just the media and like 10 other guys there at some of these rallies.
So yeah, I listen. It's check it out. It's a documentary. It's on Hulu.
Crime+Punishment. Don't. Yeah. If you put in Crime and Punishment, you'll get something else. So.
Yeah, I should probably change the name of the episode. I think I put Crime and Punishment.
Did you put Crime and Punishment?
Yeah,
it's gonna get the wrong.
Crime+Punishment.
They're gonna be confused.
Well, Dostoevsky. That's Crime and Punishment, right?
Yeah.
Am I correct with that, or is that? It's not Kafka. I think it's Dostoevsky. This is Crime and Punishment. So, Jamill, I know you just did like a whole episode on your Power Ranger con. So give us a minute or two of highlights of things that
that shit seemed really trivial after what we just talked about.
No, but let's end with
we gotta end on that note.
Yo, it was great, man. It was my first time in California. So in a calendar year, I've never been to New York and California, Anaheim, and Los Angeles. I tried to fit as much as Los Angeles I could in the last day for like 6 hours. Have any of you guys been to Los Angeles?
I have not.
Yeah, I have. Yep.
I think I like New York better. I really think I like New York better.
Yeah. Well, I've been to San Francisco a bunch of times, and I've been to LA once. And if I had the opportunity to go back to California, I'd probably choose San Francisco again.
Yeah, like man, it's like what's wrong with it is that like it like
no
you
offense,
see on
Talia. I know you live out in LA. No offense.
Like you see it on TV, right? And again, we just drove through for 6 hours. We didn't do a whole lot, but you see it on TV, and it's real nice. It's real immaculate, and it looked nice on the street. But then you just walking over like so many homeless people. Like then we went to Compton because I'm black and I have to go to Compton and Inglewood and Rosecrans and all
right
these
next
places.
To the airport anyway. So you pretty much got to go through Englewood to get to.
Well, no. We actually came in through Orange County. We actually came in John Wayne.
Gotcha. And
it's funny. I took a picture and someone said, well, John Wayne was racist. Like, I don't give a fuck. I love John Wayne movies. Like, everybody was racist back then. If in that case, I can't watch nothing before 1969. I'm sorry. if that's the requirement for me not to take this picture with John Wayne, shit, I should move to another country because I'm from Atlanta and everything named after somebody racist here. But no, as far as the convention
not Ted
itself,
Turner.
No.
Hey, I love Ted Turner, man.
And the guy that owned a team that still does this shit every fucking day.
Oh. So you enjoyed your time though.
You know what? Doing that is probably the least racist thing in Georgia. So
That's a bad sign.
well, you know, I'm just saying. No, yo, it was really fun, man. It was 3 days of Power Ranger stuff. I spent a lot of money on toys.
Sure.
Even though I'm in like a 1 bedroom apartment now, I spent a lot of money on toys because I got the room for it. It was nothing but love. It was real at first. It was weird because people was looking at me weird. I felt because me and my friend, who's not really in the Power Rangers, I drug him along, and we did not look like we was necessarily supposed to be at a Power Ranger convention. And that got mentioned to me a lot because this is a true story. It was this one chick that I'm pretty sure was trying to score cocaine for me the whole damn convention. And everybody was lovely and nice, you know what I'm saying? And she wasn't really in the convention, but I was like, fuck, am I dressed like a drug dealer? Cause I just didn't. I don't mean that in a bad way. It just like I had on like $300 sneakers and like polo. You know what I'm saying? It was just like, oh, I guess I do look kind of weird at first if you didn't know me. You know what I'm saying? But like, no, it was great. I ended up volunteering.
You ended up selling some coke. I mean, you were good.
Yeah, no, I ended up volunteering. That was really interesting because it was a 5-hour line to get your badge, and I just skipped the whole line because we volunteered. Just a quick story. That night, the dude called us back to the convention and said, "Hey, could you help us?" I'm like, "Sure." And they had like these boxes of like toys they needed pre-opened because they was destroying the boxes. It was like exclusive. You ever been to a con? You know, they got all these exclusives and say, "Hey, there's these 60 boxes that need to be open, stacked, and everything. I know it's going to take you 2 or 3 hours, but could you guys do it?" What they don't know is me and my friend does this type of work for a living, did it in 45 minutes. 45 minutes flat. And they hooked us up. That's all I'm going to say. They hooked us up for it. But no, it was great. And like what I learned is this cheesy children's show has a lot of minority fans. Right? Like minority, minority following. Like and then that I think about it, like anytime I seen the person over the last few years in the con, and somebody like in a Red Ranger costume or a Green Ranger costume, it was either black or Hispanic. And like there was a lot of white people there, but if you add up all the black, Hispanic, and Asian people, I think they might have outnumbered the white people. And it goes to show you that even with this cheesy cartoon show, children's show, they usually have a very, very diverse cast, right? It's either half minority or mostly minority. It goes to show you that even with this, you can just a little bit of representation. You will have this groundswell of all type of people. You would need gatekeeping in the geek community if there was a little more diversity.
I think part of the problem too is now with streaming services and with expansive cable packages and stuff like that is we've lost some of the identity of regular TV channels, right? The standard TV channels of the kids shows and the things that were accessible to people when we were younger. Listen, if you can't afford streaming services, if you can't afford a cable package and you only got those standard channels, you got PBS to watch kids shows, right? And you ain't nowadays, right? When we were kids, though, every single one of those channels had some kids shows, had some cartoons. You had the Channel 11 had all the Disney stuff, the DuckTales and all that shit. Then you had Saturday mornings were fucking just jam packed. Any fucking show you wanted to watch.
Power Rangers was a Saturday morning kids show. Now it's on Nickelodeon. You may not have cable.
6 a.m. or 6:30 a.m. I'd wake up every fucking day and watch a G.I. Joe. And that was just on a standard like Channel 11 or Channel 9 or something like that. You just fucking watched it, right? And nowadays that's just not available. So you can understand the allure to like a show like Power Rangers. I think it was Channel 5. Right? I think it was for us.
At least here,
Fox or whatever. It was accessible. It was a diverse cast, as you said, Jamill. And you didn't have to go out of your way to watch something that was,
And like Power Rangers has been on for 25 years. I don't know if you guys knew this. Yeah. So there's 25 versions of Power Rangers, and like I said, a lot of those are I would say it was a better word than minority, but a lot of those are like people of color. And like it's just, and like again, I don't think it's just that. I think because I hear a lot of rappers my age name drop Power Rangers, so that just goes to show you. I think the internet has connected all these people in the way. Like, hey, I like Power Rangers. I like Power Rangers too. So all these people get together. But yeah, it was great. That was really fun. Hopefully, when I go back next time, it'll be for more adult activity. You know, maybe I'll actually stay in LA and
Go
go
to
like
West
drink.
Hollywood, go to Burbank, hang out with
Is
Talia
it
for a bit. Yeah.
is it
Oh,
always in
most
LA or
definitely.
does it move around?
Huh?
Is it always in LA or does it kind of move around the country?
It used to be in Pasadena, California, but now it's in Anaheim, which is like it would be 25 minutes from LA, but with that fucking traffic,
Yeah.
Jesus fucking Christ.
Yeah.
It's a nice haze over LA too. I would like to point that out as you come into the city. It's like, oh, there's a lot of pollution here. It really is a lot of pollution. But no, it was great. I'm glad I went.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yep.
Got 4 minutes left, Marty. What else we got? Anything else?
That's about it. I mean, just go out and get this. Watch Hulu. If you don't have a Hulu thing, ask your friend Eddie or your friend Sergio, and they'll give you their information. Go back and watch some of our other. We're gonna start focusing more on just streaming stuff. We're starting to notice that that's getting most of our views, and we like to get. We're still gonna talk about the big movies we
Yeah,
see,
we'll
of
still go
course,
out to
but
some movies and see about.
All the superhero movies, baby. No, I'm just
Listen. I think if I go see Aquaman, you might never get me into a theater to see a fucking superhero movie ever again. I think that would
That
be the
actually-
fucking death knell. That
there was
might
some
be
news
it.
on that today. There was the first. They did some first screenings of that. I guess the last couple of days, and the reviews are it's not awful. So
look,
Great.
it looks better than Venom. So
Fair point. Fair point. Venom looks special.
I just don't see the point of Venom without Spider-Man. Like, I don't understand why there's no Spider-Man in this Venom movie.
Well, I love that. Didn't they just announce too that Spider-Man Homecoming comes out a month after or 2 months after Avengers?
once. So
Yeah.
I think you probably won't see any trailers for that until after Avengers.
Well,
What a
no.
fucking
It's fine.
joke.
I mean, it doesn't.
What a
I mean,
fucking joke.
Again, that's for you because you're a grown ass man. My son don't know that shit, and that's who this shit is primarily made
Yeah.
for.
you know, Spider-Man's dead though, right? I mean,
No, but that's what he's saying but he's not aware of the news that these movies are coming out and how far in advance that they've done these things. So as a kid, you see Spider-Man die, you're fucking devastated. You're like, oh, what the fuck?
Yeah, like you don't know. And think about it. When Spider-Man inevitably comes back, then 2 months later there's a Spider-Man movie, he's gonna lose his shit. And like, I think we forget that as adults.
but if he sees a trailer for Spider-Man before Avengers and says, "Hey, I thought Spider-Man was dead. I'm confused."
Kids, I don't think kids, a certain age of kids, they're just not going to connect the dots. Like honestly, they're not going to, realize.
There's also a Spider-Man cartoon come out at Christmas, I think.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
again, I probably knew some shit like that, but again, that's why we all do this podcast because we're probably a little different from everybody else. Most kids are stupid. They don't. Not stupid. I shouldn't say that. But most kids don't notice that shit. You know what I'm saying?
That's accurate, Jamal. I think you say most kids are stupid. I think that's the accurate way to say it.
You can leave that statement.
Yeah, I think so. I just want to comment. I said it before the show. I'm loving Jamil's new setup, the microphone.
Yes,
I
got
mean,
all
so
fancy on
professional.
us.
He gets his own podcast. He gets his own show. He's the star of his own show now, and he's like, "I'm gonna upgrade this shit." When I'm slumming it with the movies and stuff, people, I don't fucking care what kind of microphone I'm using. Now
You
he
gotta
does.
see
Now he does.
fucking-
Now he does.
You got to see our buddy Nick set up for his own podcast. He's got a whole studio. He's got all professional mics and cameras. When he does our shit, it's the
Listen,
fucking laptop facing this way, and he's doing it.
Listen, I got a sound booth back there. I used to do the show from the sound booth. That shit gets hot as hell. I decided I'm
Yes.
out of the sound booth.
Well, no, the only reason I got a mic is growing up, my grandmother was really cheap. So like I say something like, "Well, you got money for that." So a lot of times, and I talked to Jack about this. You always think shit costs money because you'll never ask no questions. Like one time I needed a rolling pin. I'm like, what the fuck do you buy a rolling pin? And that shit costs like $20. No, it costs like $5. But you never know because it never crossed in your mind to ever buy one. So it never entered into my mind that I could just buy a
microphone.
Yeah, for like $20. I just assume microphones cost like a couple of $100 for some reason. I don't know.
This one I got right here.
$30 maybe.
No, it was $90, but still, it's a damn good microphone, right?
That was another thing about this documentary. We'll close on that, but I mean, it looked perfect, and it's not shot on anything special. It's fucking whole handheld shit. It's all perfect HD.
Beautiful movies with iPhones nowadays. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's insane the amount of fucking technology that people have at their disposal to make movies nowadays.
The only criticism I have of that documentary while we close out is I think it takes a minute for it to get going, and it might be 20 minutes too long. That's usually my complaints about most things. Is
Fair
like
point.
slow to start, about 20 minutes too long. I really think it takes a little bit to get into at the beginning.
And then
That's
it just
it.
kind of ends. There's no real ending.
Yeah,
to
yeah.
it.
There's no
Yeah.
end. Like it ends on the down note, like, well, I'm being defamed and
Roll
ready.
credits.
Yeah, like,
Yeah. It's like, all right. And not much epilogue. It's a very kind of like, and everything on the screen I thought was really small print. I had some trouble reading some of this shit.
oh, I had to pause it. It was small
Yeah.
print and it went by really fast.
Yeah.
So I had to pause. I had to rewind and pause it.
Fucking your eyes checked. That was fine.
Wear your glasses for this one if you're watching at home.
I got good eyesight. Cool, guys. Thanks so much. Wrap up another episode of Movie Stuff Show. Figure out something to talk about next week. But
I got some stream.
got some stuff. Make sure to like this video, subscribe to us, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Movie Stuff Show. Listen to Jamill's podcast with our friend Amanda as well. And
The comic book club.
52.
And
52.
no. The actual podcast is called the Comic Book Club. Our Twitter is called Comic Book Club 52. Our email is it's comicbookclub52@gmail.com. This week, and this was Amanda. I wasn't going to do it, but we reviewed the first 16 issues of the Mighty Morphin Power Ranger comic, and I was not going to do this. That was not my thing. It's like, no, we should do this. So that's all her. Don't think just because I went to a Power Ranger convention that it was my idea. No, that was Amanda. I want to make that clear. That was all Amanda. We also discussed like the first the 5 episodes the Green Ranger shows up. So like it was just like a whole Power Ranger episode. Yeah.
Very cool.
Very cool. Yeah, and Amanda told me that she gets a good gin near her house, so she's gonna hook me up with some gin. So if you know anything about me, I buy a lot of gin. I got rid of recently 3 bottles of gin in my house, and I've replaced them with 4 bottles.
I got rid of. You mean drank?
Well, yes. I mean, what else? What else would I do with those? And now I've replaced them with 4 new bottles, so I have 4 bottles of gin in my house. Yeah. It is what it is, man. Good night, guys.
Night.